and welcome back to Googie's Kitchen, and if you are new here then hello and welcome. My name's Alexis, and during the month of December I'm going to be posting 4 videos a week on a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday and Sunday at 7 AM. So if you love a recipe video like this one and you want to see more, then please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And now I'm going to share with you 3 of my favourite biscuit or cookie recipes. As I just mentioned, today I want to share with you 3 of my favourite biscuit or cookie recipes. We love cookies in this house. I think they make a really lovely sweet treat. They make a really nice after dinner treat, and they make a really lovely snack as well. But you can also give them as a gift to a friend or relative. I have given biscuits and cookies to friends and relatives in the past, and they have always been really well received. So I thought that I would share 3 of my favourite recipes with you today. First thing we're going to do is we are going to blend our dry ingredients to make them into a flour. So Teddy's going to pour 200 grams of gluten-free oats into the blender. Don't worry about that.
Spill 200 grams.
Yeah.
Right.
And then he's going to put 50 grams of raw cacao powder, or you could use cocoa powder if you wanted to as well. And then he's got about 100 grams of ground almonds. And then we are also going to add in 100 grams of brown rice flour as well.
It doesn't look brown to me.
Well, rice flour then. And then you're going to add in 2 teaspoons of baking powder too. 1, 2, lovely. And then you're going to add in a teaspoon of cinnamon. You can't get the spoon in that, sweetheart. You're going to need to pour it on. Do you want Mummy to do it? And then you put it in. Oh, there you go.
Me.
Okay, lovely. And then we're also going to put about 4 sprigs of lavender into this mixture as well, and it will blend it up so you won't know it's in there. And then we're going to put the lid on, and we're going to blend all of these ingredients together. Smoothie, sweetie. We've blended these ingredients until they resemble a breadcrumb mixture, like so. So now we're going to pour these into our mixing bowl.
Yum.
Like so. And then we are going to pour about 100 grams of ghee into the mixture. And with our clean hands we are going to mix.
Oh yeah, baby. Oh, that's hot, that's hot.
That's because I've just made the ghee, that's why. We're going to mix all of this together until it resembles breadcrumbs. You can just rub your hands together, it will come off, sweetheart.
I'm going to have to wash my hands after this.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, it's so warm.
Right. We're off to wash our hands now, we're back in a minute.
Yep.
Now we're going to put in about 100 grams of coconut sugar as well. And we'll mix that round. You want to mix that round with a fork?
Yes, me.
Okay, so we're just going to mix the coconut sugar in. I should probably put this in before I put the butter in, but I completely forgot. So you can add it in now, or you can add it in before. I think in the original instructions it does actually say to add it in before. So yeah, please do that. Don't do it me. I'm having one of them days today.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm getting a helicopter tomorrow.
Yeah. So just going to mix that in. We're going to do the egg next, sweetheart.
Oh yeah, I want to crack the egg. Crack the egg.
Crack the egg. No, crack it into that bowl. Like so. So we've got 1 egg for this recipe.
Oh, there's some shell bits.
Okay, you just take those out.
Yeah, and then pour that in.
No, you scramble that now.
Scramble first.
Scramble, and then you can pour the maple syrup into that bowl as well for me, please.
So do this first, then that?
No, pour the maple syrup, after you scrambled it like that, you pour the maple syrup in. Do you want me to pour that in?
No, I'll do it.
Okay. No, into there, Ted.
Okay.
In with there.
Ooh. Would you do that? And then I scramble.
Scramble it.
It looks all rainbow.
Yeah, then we scramble that. Scramble that together. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add that.
I think it's created a new colour.
Have we?
Blackish green.
Oh, lovely. And then we're going to add this to the bowl. Right, so we're going to add this in now.
I like cookie.
And we'll mix this in
Oh,
together.
it's like rainbow.
Like so. And then hopefully this will form a really nice dough ball in a minute. If it is a bit too wet, if it's a bit of a wet consistency, you could always add more brown rice flour in, or rice flour. And if you can't get rice flour, you can always use plain flour in this recipe as well. So don't worry too much. So while my son eats out of the bowl. Lovely. Right. So that's formed a really nice dough ball. So now what we're going to do is we're going to roll this out into the biscuits. Our dough is ready, and what we are going to do is we are going to just put some flour onto a board, and then we're going to grab a piece of the biscuit dough and we are going to roll it out. You can roll these to about ½ centimetre thick, I'd say. If you want them a bit thicker, then obviously roll them a bit thicker. But I'm going to try and roll this to about that much. And then my lovely assistant, my son Ted here, is going to cut them for me. And we're just going to repeat this process until we have used up, careful, all of the biscuit dough. So Ted and I have rolled out about a board and a half, yeah, unfortunately that one went a bit wrong, Ted. A board and a half of biscuits. We are now going to put these in the fridge, and the reason I put them in the fridge is simply because it makes them crunchier. So the biscuits tend to go a little bit harder if they are put in the fridge before I put them in the oven. So I'm going to put these into the fridge now. So while the biscuits are in the fridge, I'm going to preheat my oven to 200 degrees. The biscuits have been in the fridge for ½ an hour and my oven has preheated. So what we're going to do is we are going to transfer, careful because these are hot, okay? We are going to transfer the biscuits onto the baking trays. Now I have Pampered Chef stoneware here, and stoneware you don't need to grease anything or put grease-proof paper on it, but if you are using ordinary baking trays, then I would suggest you put grease-proof paper down and put oil it as well, or grease it, so that the biscuits don't stick. So yes, we are just putting these onto putting these onto the baking tray, and then we are going to cook these in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes, I'd say. The ones on the top generally tend to do better in my oven than the ones on the bottom, than the tray on the bottom. Stop putting on that one, sweetheart, that's it. So yes, and as I mentioned, I'm using Pampered Chef stoneware, and Pampered Chef stoneware, stoneware kind of absorbs all the badness from the food and just leaves the goodness, so these biscuits will be very healthy once we've cooked them. So yes, we're just going to continue to do this now. The biscuits have been transferred to the baking trays, and as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to put these into the oven now for about 15 to 20 minutes. So these biscuits are a lovely golden brown colour, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these out of the oven and I'm going to put them on a cooling rack, and I'm going to leave them to cool for a while. So that's how we've made our chocolate lavender biscuits, and we've left these to cool on the cooling rack. We're going to put them in a glass jar soon, and then we are going to eat them. They smell so yummy, I cannot... Ted's already had some, but they smell so yummy, I can't wait to try one. How were they? Were they good? Excellent. So yes, if you want the recipe, I will link it in the description box below for you. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mix my dry ingredients together. So in this bowl here I have 150 grams of ground oats. So I put these oats into my food processor and I ground them up. So they've made a flour, which I'm now going to add to my bowl. And then in this bowl here I have 200 grams of brown rice flour. If you can't get brown rice flour or rice flour, then you could use plain flour if you wanted to. I can't use plain flour because I have a gluten intolerance, so that's why I use rice flour. It kind of does the same job as plain flour, I find. And then in this bowl here, I have 60 grams of ground pecans as well. So I just put these into my food processor and I blended them until they formed a sort of a crumb. And I'm just going to mix those together. And then in this bowl here, I have about 60 grams of raw cacao powder. Now you don't have to use raw cacao powder. You could use cocoa powder if you wanted to. I use raw cacao powder because it has more nutrients in it. It hasn't been processed like cocoa powder has, so it's slightly better for the body. And then in this bowl here I have 1 teaspoon of baking powder as well. And I'm just going to mix all of these ingredients together until everything is well mixed in. And then I'm going to move on to my wet ingredients now. So now I'm going to mix my wet ingredients together. So in this bowl here I have 200 grams of vegan butter, or you could use butter or you could use ghee if you wanted to as well. Unsalted butter I should say. And then in this bowl here I have about 150 grams of sugar. I'm actually using brown sugar today, but you can use any type of sugar you like for this recipe. And then in the original recipe I said to use 1 extract of orange extract, sorry. But unfortunately I've run out of orange extract and I don't really want to go to the shops just for that at the moment. So I'm actually using the juice of 1 orange and the zest of 1 orange as well. So I'm just going to pour that in to the mix. And now I'm just going to mix all of these together. So I have creamed the butter, sugar and the orange juice together, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add these ingredients to the dry ones, and hopefully I'm going to mix them together and I'm going to make a biscuit. Now sometimes I find that I do need to add a bit of milk to this mix, and I may need to do that today, but we will see. I'll just scrape out, so make sure I get it all as well. And I'm just going to continue to mix these together, and if I need a bit of milk I'll let you know. Very good. So to form a dough ball I am going to need a little bit of milk for this recipe, so I'm just adding a splash of milk. I'm just using some oat milk, but you can use any type of milk you like. So I'm just going to try and form a dough ball now. I think that is going to form very quickly soon. You honestly probably only need, if you need any milk, probably about 20 mils or so. So yeah, that's forming a dough ball now quite nicely. So I'm going to start rolling these out now. So my mixture has formed a lovely dough ball now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll this mixture out into biscuits. But first I'm going to flour a ball. So I've got some spare brown rice flour here that I'm just going to spread across the bottom of the board. And now I'm just going to grab a piece of the dough and I'm going to just roll this out until it's probably about ½ centimetre thick, I'd say. Obviously thickness of a biscuit is your personal choice, so you decide how thick you want the biscuit or how thin you want the biscuit. We like about ½ centimetre in this house, so that's perfect for us. And then I have a biscuit cutter here as well. You could use a glass, you could use a cup, anything that will cut the dough is perfect. And then I'm going to put these onto my spare board. So I'll just move these out the way and show you again. So I've just got the biscuit cutter and I'm just cutting out the dough and putting it onto my spare board like that. So I've used up all of the cookie dough and I'm now going to put these into the fridge Now you might think it's quite strange that I'm putting them into the fridge, but as I've mentioned in previous videos, I find that if I refrigerate these biscuits before I put them into the oven, they become that little bit crunchier. I don't know why, but when they go in cold, they just come out slightly crunchier, and we love a biscuit with a crunch in this house. So I'm off to put these into the fridge for about half an hour now. So my biscuits have been in the fridge for about half an hour now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to preheat my oven to 200 degrees. My oven has preheated, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer the biscuits from the chopping boards that I put them on onto my, well, one is a Pampered Chef stone and one is a stone I brought from Amazon. So you don't have to, but if you have got a stoneware, biscuits cook really well on stoneware. Stoneware absorbs all the badness and then just leaves the goodness. So they make the biscuits really crunchy, I have to say. But if you don't have these, then you could use a baking tray with a piece of greaseproof paper. Now, as I said, I'm just going to transfer the biscuits from the chopping boards to the baking tray or the stoneware, and then I'm going to put these into the oven for probably about 10 to 15 minutes, I'd say. Depending on your oven is depending on how long they will take to cook. And as I said, the stoneware really does make the biscuits very crunchy as well. I have mentioned this in previous biscuit videos, and I do use stoneware a lot to cook with as well. So yeah, I'm just going to continue to do this now. I've put all of the biscuits onto both of my baking trays or stoneware, and as I said, I'm going to pop these into the oven for 10 to 15 minutes now. The biscuits are cooked, and I'm now going to transfer them from the stoneware, or baking tray if you're using a baking tray, to the cooling rack. And then I'm just going to leave these to cool, and once they've cooled I shall put them into a biscuit jar, ready for everybody to eat. I'm going to preheat the oven to 180 degrees. While the oven is preheating, I'm going to prepare my biscuits. So for this I have about 175 grams of butter that I'm just going to put into that bowl. I'm going to move the egg over with that as well, put that in later. And then in here I have about 150 grams of coconut sugar. Now you don't need to use coconut sugar, you could use brown sugar if you wanted to, but they do taste better with brown sugar or coconut sugar, I do have to say that. Well, I think that anyway. And then I'm also going to add an egg to this as well. So I'm just going to crack an egg and put that into my bowl. So that's that in, and then I'm going to add a little bit of vanilla extract to this as well. So I'm just going to add like a capful of vanilla extract as well, and then I'm going to blend these ingredients together. I've creamed the butter and the sugar together until they are smooth and soft, and I'm just going to set this bowl aside now. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to deal with my dry ingredients. So in this bowl here I have about 200 grams of oats that I'm just going to pour into my bowl like so. And then in this bowl here I have about 150 grams of sorghum flour. Now sorghum flour is a flour they use a lot in Indian cooking, and they use it in a flatbread normally. I'm using it today because I've actually run out of brown rice flour and almond flour, so I would use either of those. So I'd use rice flour or almond flour, but as I've run out I'm just going to use sorghum today, so I'm just going to add that to my mixing bowl as well. And then I'm going to add half a teaspoon of baking powder to this too. So I'm just going to add half a teaspoon of baking powder. And I'm going to also add a teaspoon of ground sweet cinnamon. If you can't get ground sweet cinnamon, then you can always use cinnamon. That's absolutely okay. And then I'm also going to add a teaspoon of salt to this as well. So I'm just going to add some salt, like so. And then I'm just going to mix these ingredients together until everything is well mixed in. So yeah, I'm just going to keep mixing these. These biscuits or cookies make a really great sweet treat. They're also great in a packed lunchbox as well. And they make a really nice after dinner or after lunch sweet treat as well. I normally like to have my sweet treats after my lunch, so I will probably have one of these today after my lunch. And my husband and son will probably have them after dinner. So yes, that's how it works in this family. How's it work in yours? I'd love to know. Let me know in the comments below. Right, so that's everything mixed together. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my dry ingredients to my wet ingredients. So I'm going to mix everything together. Now don't worry if it seems a little dry. It probably will be, but I have a solution for that. I have some apple juice there. If you don't want to use apple juice, you could use a bit of milk if you wanted to while you're mixing these together. I think I'm going to need the apple juice though. So yeah, I'm just going to add a bit of apple juice to this mixture just to make the cookies a bit wetter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add it bit by bit. So I'm just going to add a little bit at a time. As I said, you could use milk if you wanted to, and milk of your choice. Also, you can make these vegan as well. You could use vegan butter in these instead of butter, or you could use coconut oil as well. And you could take out the egg and actually use a banana to give it that extra bit of sweetness if you wanted to. So yes, I'm just going to continue to mix these together. That's looking a little better. So I'm going to add a little bit more apple juice to this. I think I had about 4 tablespoons in that mug, and I think that was perfectly fine to use. So yes, as I said, I'm just going to keep mixing these together now. And the final ingredient I'm going to add in is my raisins. And again, I'm just going to mix these ingredients together until all of the raisins are mixed in to the cookie mix. Now normally I would put my cookie dough mixture into the fridge, I would roll them all out and I would put them into the fridge, but with this one I want them to be soft and not hard and crunchy, so I'm just going to put this straight onto my baking tray. And I'm using my Pampered Chef stone again. I love my stoneware, it cooks food really evenly. If you haven't got stoneware, then you can always use a baking tray and a sheet of greaseproof paper and just oil the greaseproof paper before you put the cookie dough on. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop some of the cookie dough onto the baking tray or stoneware, like so, and hopefully this will make quite a few. I'm hoping this will make 16, maybe more. I do have another baking tray over there, so please don't worry, there is another tray if I need it. So yes, I'm just going to continue to put the cookie dough onto the baking tray. In the end, I did have to use 2 trays, and this made about 20 cookies. You could make these smaller if you wanted to, but I just fancied some chunky cookies for the weekend. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put these into the oven for about 15 minutes. The cookies have been in the oven for about 15 minutes now, and they're looking a lovely golden brown colour. The ones on top look a bit more cooked than the ones on the bottom, so I'm going to take the ones on the top out and leave the other ones in for another 5 minutes, I'd say, but these ones are definitely done, so I'm going to take these out and leave them to cool. I've left the biscuits to cool until they are touchable, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take them and I'm going to put them onto this cooling rack and leave them until they are completely cool. It smells so good in this house right now. The smell is amazing, I have to say, and I will try one of these biscuits in a moment, or cookies. I think they're quite crunchy on the outside, but I think they might be slightly softer in the middle. So they're probably more like the shop bought ones that you get in the supermarkets. The soft cookies that you normally buy from the bakery section. So yeah, I think they're probably going to be a bit more like that. So this is a real treat because normally I make quite crunchy biscuits, so my husband and son will be impressed. Oh yeah, that's really soft and fluffy on the inside. I'm just going to try a little bit. Has a slightly chewy texture on the outside, but it's really lovely and soft on the inside. They are delicious. I'm looking forward to my husband and son trying these because I'm sure they're going to love them, and I'm going to probably have one of these with a cup of tea this afternoon. That was 3 of my favourite flapjack recipes, and those recipes I will link in the description box below for you. I really hope that you and your friends and relatives really enjoy those flapjacks as much as we have. So for now, that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to give me a big thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and please feel free to leave any comments below, and please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. See you all soon. Bye.